Oh my goodness, this is awful!
Hi viewer, this is your Royal Majesty, the CDI Queen, bringing you the world's first positive reviews for the Philips CDI. This video assumes you are at least minimally familiar with the console already, as I will not be explaining the story of the CDI, but rather reviewing the games. Having grown up with the CDI, I approached the games with a certain nostalgia and love that many folks who weren't as lucky as myself don't have. Granted, I won't be giving glowing reviews, and I am going to be moderately realistic, but I aim to put these games in a generally positive light, which I so presumptively call the world's first. This is the first part in a series, and I intend to cover all of my favorites, with the exception of Lost Eden, because that would definitely not be the world's first positive review, because it's actually an amazing game. For those of you who don't know, Philips made 3 supposed Zelda titles for the CDI that somehow managed to get Nintendo's seal of approval. In the recent past, they gained some notoriety on the internet for being super cringy.
My boy!
It would be a shock to me if you have found this video and you aren't at least vaguely familiar with the Wand of Gamelon or the Faces of Evil, so I assume that you are. However, this video won't be delving into the horrors of animation magic and their grotesque cutscenes reminiscent of MS Paint.
How about a kiss for luck?
But a different kind of terror. The bizarre, standalone monstrosity known as Zelda's Adventure. To put it nicely, this game is charmingly weird. And for this video, I'm using gameplay from the wonderful and talented fellow CDI enthusiast Half-Blind Gamer. He has an excellent playthrough of all of your favorites, with charming and insightful commentary. Not to mention he actually knows how to play the games, so you aren't watching hours of people cursing and shouting while they bumble around through difficult games they've never played before. If you like my videos, you will absolutely like his. Please check him out, link in the description. Despite being released in 1996, and mind you, it was never officially released in the US, don't ask me how my family got a copy, the development of Zelda's Adventure supposedly started in 1992. For those of you playing along at home, I was 6 years old upon release. Now, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of how it came to be and why. And if you're curious about the whole story, I suggest you read up on The Cutting Room Floor, a useful database of unused information found in games from many an impressive variety of consoles. Be sure to read their pre-release article as well, link in the description. And while you're at it, check out their other pages for the other CDI Zelda games too. I will visit those in the future. To summarize, Zelda's Adventure was going to be considerably different than its final form, but numerous budget cuts, layoffs, and other delays forced the developers, Veritas, to condense the game into a messy amalgamation of experimental misfortune. Experimental misfortune that took on the shape and form of a Legend of Zelda game. How is it even a Legend of Zelda game, you ask? Well, we have a Princess Zelda. She has to save Link from the evil Ganon, like every Zelda game, you know. She's living in, or is at least sent to the land of Ptolemech to reclaim the 7 celestial signs that Ganon stole, then defeat him, rescue Link, and save Ptolemech. I feel like the celestial signs are some kind of Triforce ripoff, since they are magical objects personified by triangles that Ganon steals. Something curious about this game is if you simply changed the names of Zelda, Link, and Ganon, it wouldn't be a Zelda game at all, and it probably would have gotten much less bad press, but it also probably would have gotten much less attention, period, which is likely why they stuck the Zelda label on it. This feels weird to me because the way they put the game together seems like they were sloppily avoiding copyright violations to not be a Zelda game. Ganon is spelled with 2 N's instead of 1, the Celestial Signs replace the Triforce, Ptolemech replaces Hyrule. There are common bosses like Tektites and Moblin, but they could easily pass for something more original. As a counterpoint, the Wand of Gamelon and Faces of Evil have more consistent Zelda themes. They mention Hyrule, they have the Triforce, Impa is Zelda's caretaker, etc., etc. Like many Zelda games, there is a harp. When you use it inside a shrine, it will teleport you back to the entrance. Each shrine also has a map and a compass. Most are found somewhere within the shrines, with a few interesting exceptions. The compass is very handy in that when used in the overworld, it'll teleport you to the outer entrance of the shrine. I like to look at the game independently from the Zelda franchise. That way we don't have this, "how is it a Zelda game?" bias to skew our perception of a fascinating game. The mechanics of battle are definitely worth discussing, as they were originally going to be quite different. See, the final release version has only 2 real styles of weapon. Zelda has a wand that works as a 1-hit point close-range weapon that doesn't cost anything to use. Then there are weapons found throughout the game which all operate in the same way. You select the weapon in the menu, and when you press button 1 to attack, Zelda waves her wand and the selected weapon comes flying out. If they're magical spells, the spell comes radiating out as waves, clouds, or similar. If it's a melee weapon, it still comes flying out. So if you select a broadsword, endless physical swords come flying out of the wand. I kid you not. Any weapon other than the standard wand consumes rubies when used, just like magical items in the Wand of Gamelon and Faces of Evil, which I find to be a real drag. They really could have made use of an MP meter, but beggars can't be choosers, and this is the life... this is the life we have chosen. You see, the game was supposed to have melee weapons plus a magical spell system, which pretty likely included an MP meter. This original combat system was advanced enough in development that the game still includes raw audio clips of the training hidden in its files. But in the end, they chopped up their plans and ended with a haphazard amalgamation of spellbooks and swords that consume rubies and fly out of the wand. So weird, but not impossible to play. There are also various red herring items, some of which are byproducts of the mid-production changes, like flower bouquets, other magical boots, and salt shakers. Many of these I have yet to find a purpose for, and despite being a little frustrating, the sheer number of items, weapons, and spells adds a level of depth you don't find in most CDI titles. Except for Laser Lords, because Laser Lords is literally the best CDI game. Now, despite the bad, there are some rad concepts hiding in this game. The 7 celestial signs embody the classical elements of earth, air, water, and fire, but we also get a few different ones: strength, illusion, and destiny. Each one has its own shrine, complete with monsters, puzzles, and a boss. Aesthetically speaking, I love each and every one of the shrines. Let's summarize them. The Shrine of Earth is a subterranean cavern with a greedy troll for a boss. The Earth Shrine has low droning noises for music, stalactites covering half the screen, and there are goofy mini-bosses that provide some of the game's signature weird dialogue. Next is the Shrine of Illusion, which is a circus tent filled with horrific calliope music, wonky, spooky flooring, and the color scheme of Drop Dead Fred's underwear. The boss, Pasquinade, is a wrinkly dog-man-beast thing with a surprisingly calm voice. Some of the rooms in the Shrine of Illusion have floors that you can fall through, and thus send you back to the beginning of the level. It can be really annoying because objects' hitboxes are too big, and the traps are often time-based. A couple of the rooms have really cool tile flooring, and most of the shrine is legitimately neat. I dig anything with lots of symbols. The Shrine of Air is accessible only by flying on a giant bird, which is not nearly as majestic as it sounds. It's a crystal palace in the sky, with another, much more annoying giant bird for a boss. I think the Air Shrine is really cool, and I love how it's made of crystals, most of which are enlarged photos of semi-precious stones. How do we make this shrine better? A large influx of bees should do the trick. Next, we have the Shrine of Destiny, which you can access by entering a stone monument that stands alone in the desert. You take a little staircase down into the ground, and suddenly we are in what appears to be a library drawn by a Maurice Sendak nightmare. The music is intense, strikingly so. The boss, Malamar, resembles the Grim Reaper, which makes sense considering all of our destinies is to die. Sorry, truth hurts. All in all, it's a very decent shrine. I think the vibe is unique, quite unique. I'm also a huge fan of Destiny's celestial sign. It's taken straight from the tarot card Wheel of Fortune, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, as I did when I was a kid before I even knew what it was. After Destiny, we have the Shrine of Water, which we get to by sailing on a raft by using a key item that's easy to miss early on. Ladies and gentlemen, straight from Homer's Odyssey, a vial of wind. Disappointingly, this one is essentially the Shrine of Earth, only slightly greener and wetter. The boss is an amorphous blob by the name of Agwanda, and what little music there is gets tiresome very quickly. Next, we have the Shrine of Strength, which is surprisingly a castle filled with knights. There's medieval music, there is jousting, there is a giant bear for a boss. It confuses me because how is a celestial shrine just a castle? Isn't that a little weird? Also, it doesn't really have any monsters in it, it just has knights and jousting, and a bear. What? Well, anyway, last but not least, there's the Shrine of Fire. It's inside a volcano, and the boss is a dragon. Much original, very impressed. Not a lot to say about that one, except there are blacksmiths inside the shrine, which is a different choice. And the boss's name is Warbane. He's a dragon. He can talk. He's aight. My main question about these shrines: what is their purpose? Were they built by magical beings to house the celestial signs, or did Ganon build them after he stole the signs? If they were pre-existing, Ganon must have junked them up, right? And then that begs the question of who the bosses are. Were they originally the keepers of the signs, turned evil by Ganon, like the divine beasts in Breath of the Wild? Or are they minions of Ganon's who overturned whatever kind of angelic spirit originally lived in the shrine? We may never know. Moving on, what exactly are the celestial signs? It seems they keep some kind of order in Ptolemaic, as you will notice by talking to the quirky NPCs. The general conversation is that the land has fallen into disarray from what we can only assume is due to Ganon taking over the signs. We definitely lack the proper exposition, but any game that gives me an opening to ask these questions always earns points in my book. Graphics-wise, the game is put together with several different techniques. The human sprites are all real people. Some of the backgrounds are aerial photos of Hawaii, while the interior backdrops, like houses and buildings, as well as the monsters, are actually scale models made by the incredibly talented Jason Bakudis. There are also a few brief cutscenes that feature real people. All of these elements combined had two results: an extremely unique look, and really slow loading times. I myself didn't realize the models were real objects, and always marveled at how bizarre and almost quaint everything looked, racking my child brain to figure out how it was made. It amazes me to know how much detail went into it. There's also a really fun Easter egg sort of glitch hiding in the game. When a dialogue track is activated, there's a brief pause in which the background noise volume is reduced. If you time it correctly and bring up the inventory screen, upon returning to the game, you will sometimes get random dialogue tracks. This could be from a completely different character, or it could even be unused dialogue that doesn't appear in the game. Once again, the cutting room floor mentioned before provides an excellent resource for this and actually gives us all of the unused dialogue that can be found when using this glitch.
You've been hit with an ugly stick. Here's another.
You insufferable surface person.
It was really fun when I figured it out as a kid, and my sister and I spent considerable time rolling the dice to discover new dialogue. All in all, the game is frustratingly difficult to play. Glitchy hitboxes make it sometimes impossible to strike targets and leave many openings to take damage or get stuck on terrain. Like I said in the Shrine of Illusion, it can make the simple puzzles really frustratingly hard, and not because they're a challenge, just because it was made bad. The map is an open world, which is fun and definitely explorable. There are forests, towns, caverns, little secrets, even a beach and a swamp. Like a real Zelda game, there are extra hearts scattered across Ptolemaic that you can collect to become stronger. It was fun to keep finding secret hearts the first time I played it, especially because I had never played a Nintendo Zelda game until Ocarina of Time, which was a lot later after I played these Zelda games, so this was all news to me. And like a traditional Zelda game, the plot remains linear, as the shrines will only open when you've completed them in order. You can discover them, but usually the door is blocked by spikes or something similar until you've completed the preceding shrines. When you finally collect all of the celestial signs, you get to revisit almost all of the boss levels before facing off against Ganon. Hooray! What's not so fun is how different areas have more difficult enemies without warning, so you're casually wandering the Barachno swamp, killing off Zolas at a safe distance. Then you step out into a new section and suddenly the enemies are way too strong. You know, like they do in The Witcher 3, only the enemies in Zelda don't have an easily identifiable level over their heads, so you're just ambiguously screwed. At the end of the day, the game is sloppy and difficult to play, but definitely not impossible. I have won it several times myself and enjoy replaying it from time to time. I couldn't tell you how long it took me to complete it as a kid, but my sister and I did manage to pull it off. I actually think, to give you an idea, I was able to beat this game before I beat Kether. Don't tell me why that game was so hard for me when I was little. As I have explained, there is music. Originally, it was going to be done by Echo and the Bunnymen. What a loss. But it fell through with the other big plans they started out with, and we ended up with some atmospheric noises and vague bits of music. The most musical of the shrines are Illusion and Destiny. Did I mention that I love the Shrine of Destiny? Zelda's adventure leaves a lot to be desired, but it's also quite charming and interesting. I can honestly say I have never seen another game as visually unique. Even after being sent through the ringer and coming out completely different, I think it's a decent game. The map is pretty big for a CDI title, and many of the concepts are very cool. I enjoyed it as a child, and I still enjoy it to this day, even though I get more frustrated these days since I have less patience to keep replaying certain parts after continuously dying. What do I think is the best part of the game? The details found in Jason Bakudis' models, both monster and backdrop, evoke a feeling of bizarre whimsy I haven't found in any other game. 10 out of 10.